Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on data as a service on modern data platforms. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to kick things off, and I'm going to talk about B2B and firmographic data and the rise of data marketplaces and data as a service. And then we're going to hear from Sarah from Databricks and Sinead from ZoomInfo about their solutions. But we'll spend the bulk of the webinar in a panel discussion about the topics that I'm going to tee up, and we'll discuss some of them in the context of the go-to-market strategy. Okay, so what are we seeing at TDWI? What we're seeing is that companies are collecting a range of data types. And this chart comes from a recent survey on data and analytics. We run the survey yearly, and we ask the same questions. And in it, we asked, what kinds of data is your company using for analytics now and then planning to use? And so the blue is using now, and then the orange is planning to use, and the gray is no plans or don't know. And you can look down the y-axis, and you can see that we've listed all kinds of data, and you could see that all kinds of data are being used. So this includes things like structured data, transactional data, log data, demographic data, external and internal text data, machine-generated data, and so on. Look down the list. And you could see that organizations now are collecting a lot of diverse data, and that they plan to collect more and use it for analytics. So you see the blue, like there's a big blue line for structured data. There's less of a line for things like external text data, but you could see that, there was a big orange line, saying that people are planning to use it. Now I boxed off the demographic data, and you could see that close to 50% are collecting it now and using it for analytics, and another 35% are planning to use it. And this demographic data, that includes B2C data about consumers, where they live, how much they earn, their education level. It also includes B2B data or firmographic data. So let's talk about firmographic data, and that is data about companies. So it includes things such as industry, revenue for the company, the structure of the company, including its subsidiaries, spend information, and other kinds of information. And what's it used for? Well, it can be used for analytics and applications. So B2B data can be used, I have first, as part of an enriched data set. So you can marry different kinds of data together to produce this enriched data set for analytics and applications. And I've listed some examples here. So for instance, you might take B2B data and marry it with billing data, your company's billing data, to better understand customer retention. So, you look at the companies, you look at how much, they're actually spending with you, maybe gather some other data together and, try to predict churn from that. Maybe companies in a certain industry don't spend that much money with your company, and maybe they're candidates for churn, or you take industry data and other data together for sales planning, because that may have economic data as part of it for your industry, or you look at buyer intent data and use it for sales planning. So here, some buyers may be actively researching topics, on the web related to your business, and some firmographic companies can actually capture this kind of data. So, those are just some examples of, how you'd use it for analysis. Obviously, organizations are also using it for lead generation in sales. So, for instance, in go-to-market, it's used in sales prospecting. So B2B data can be used to identify potential sales leads that may be interested in the organization's products and services. And then that data can be used to build a list of potential customers that your representatives can reach out to and start building relationships with. Or it can be used for things like lead scoring, where B2B data can be used to assign scores to potential sales leads based on various criteria, like the level of engagement with your organization's marketing materials, or their demographics, or their behavior patterns. And, ZoomInfo will tell us more about this. Where do you get this information? Well, I gave it away already. You can buy it from a firmographic provider, such as ZoomInfo, that provides business information on data and companies, across the globe. including things like financial data, industry data, corporate hierarchy data. And then, you can also probably get this data from a cloud data marketplace. Databricks, our other sponsor, has a cloud data marketplace. And these are online marketplaces for buyers and sellers. So a ZoomInfo data set might also be on the marketplace that your cloud service provider provides. So ZoomInfo, has a partnership with Databricks, and you can access their data on the marketplace. So there'd be data for sale. There might also be other kinds of useful data, like industry-specific data. There can be applications on the marketplace. There can be machine learning models, on it too, and other things. I'm actually in the process of doing some research now for a best practices report on diverse data. And what I'm seeing is that cloud data marketplaces are actually entering the mainstream of adoption. So a number of organizations are making use of these cloud data marketplaces. Now, I haven't seen that many free data sources for firmographic information in a way that would be useful. Of course, there's some sources for B2C data, but not so much on the B2B side. So you can get the data for that. When you're trying to access some of this data, obviously, you need to think about some of the issues that need to be addressed if you're buying from a third party or a data marketplace. First, of course, the data, you want to make sure that your data is accurate and of high quality. So the third party or marketplace provider needs to be reputable and have processes in place to ensure that their data is accurate. The data has to be the data should be correctly formatted, so it may be incorrectly formatted, and that can make it hard for analysis until it's reformatted. And, you obviously want to make sure that the data is going to be fresh and accurate, because what happens sometimes is that you can purchase out-of-date data, because B2B data can actually be difficult to maintain and keep up to date. If you think about, what happens inside of businesses, contact information can change frequently, and contacts, can move, they can change jobs in the company, they can switch companies, all of that can make it difficult to keep up with changes. So you need to make sure that your provider is addressing this. Also, it's really important that you get the correct representation of a company and its subsidiaries, because obviously companies can merge, they can change their names, they can go out of business. Other things you should watch out for are issues with match rates. We hear sometimes that integrating, depending where you're getting it from, that integrating data, across the board really for data enrichment can be a challenge. It's not just about a third-party data. It's about data from the other sources you saw on that chart. Things like CRM systems, marketing automation systems. You need to be able to integrate this data into a cohesive data set, and that can be challenging for some companies when they're dealing with disparate data formats. So you're going to need to vet your provider thoroughly, and you're also going to probably need a scalable platform that can handle large volumes of data, diverse data that's real time. So this chart comes from a 2023 survey, and I'm saying that this often requires a new platform. So here we asked what data management technologies respondents were using to support modern analytics, and respondents, could select as many as they were actually using. And, what we see obviously is, at the top of the list there, we see things like cloud data warehouses and cloud data lakes. And so those are at higher percentages than their on-premises counterparts. I've seen the percentages higher, like here we're saying data warehouses in the cloud are at about 50-something%. I've seen them higher, but what's interesting here is that in this survey particularly, was the first time I've seen cloud data warehouses and cloud data lakes actually outpacing their on-premises counterparts. So, 55%, 40% I've seen, but, in this survey, and I saw it again in another survey that I just did, where more respondents were using platforms in the cloud than on premises. Of course, they're also overlapping, in terms of using hybrid platforms. They may use some on premises and some in the cloud, but also what's emerging here, if you look at this, the boxed data lakehouse, this data lakehouse in the cloud, I boxed that off. And you can see in this survey, about 21% of the respondents, well, slightly less than 20% of the respondents were using a cloud data lakehouse. I've seen this number as over 20%. I've seen it at 15%. So let's call it like 15 to 20% are using this newer kind of platform. And Databricks will talk about it, but what we're saying a data lakehouse is a combination of a data lake and a data warehouse that provides warehouse data structures and data management functions, but it's on this low-cost platform that makes use of cloud object stores, for example, that are often associated with data lakes. So you get the benefit of the data management functionality, as well as being able to, store some of this other diverse data that I was talking about. So, in some ways, these platforms have blurred the distinction between the traditional data warehouse and the data lake. So, for example, there's no more silos going back and forth between the data warehouse and the data lake to get data. And these platforms also support the kinds of data as a services that we've been sort of talking about. So this term data as a service refers to a cloud-based service where data is made available to users on demand, regardless of where they are, or how they're separated from the data source. And so instead of hosting the data on your own servers, businesses can buy or subscribe to data from third-party providers who host it on cloud servers. That's what I was showing you before. And then the data is accessed and consumed through APIs or web services. And that makes it easier to integrate the data and ensures that the data is fresh and it's accurate and it's trusted, right? Because you have like this seamless integration between, where the data is, even though you're not hosting it, and your own data. And so this data as a service can be incorporated into your existing workflows on your platforms to advance analytics, modeling, to fuel your organization's go-to-market strategy, and make sure at the same time that your data is consistent and current and has high fidelity. So it's really this idea of being able to use, this other external data that can be very useful for enriching your data sets and lead generation and other things in a sort of seamless way. So this is high quality data that you don't have to manage, but it's easily integrated into your other data for analysis. So with that, what I'm going to do is hand it over to Andrew to introduce our speakers from Databricks and ZoomInfo, and to hear a bit more about their solutions before we go into the panel discussion. So Andrew, over to you.
Thanks very much, Fern. That was a great presentation. It's now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who's Sarah Grantham with Databricks. Sarah is the Global VP, ISV, OEM, and VAR Partner Sales at Databricks. Sarah has over 20 years of experience in sales and sales leadership roles. Prior to joining Databricks, Sarah was the Vice President, WWISV, Cloud OEM, Tech, and Resale Partner Sales at MongoDB. In this role, Sarah was responsible for building the business and scaling revenue with partners. Sarah has a BA in economics, journalism, and mass communication from NYU. Welcome, Sarah. And with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Andrew. And Fern, what a great kickoff. Everyone, I'm Sarah, as Andrew said, and leading our ISV business, it gives me just this incredible opportunity to work with so many companies that are sharing and collaborating on data, AI, analytics, whether they're doing this within their own organizations, through partners, or with data vendors like ZoomInfo. I am humbled to work so closely with Sneh and his ZoomInfo team. They're strategic data and marketplace partners of ours. And together, we're driving great innovation to our joint customers' go-to-market strategies. But before getting into that, let's take a step back and talk a bit about how Databricks fits into all of this. All right, so with our over 10,000 commercial customers that range from Fortune 500s to unicorns, and our 60 million monthly downloads of our open source products, our exponential nonlinear growth curve is just starting to ramp up. Our success, it's the result of how we're helping to solve the world's toughest data challenges. Of course, for go-to-market and also a breadth of other use cases. We pioneered the Lakehouse, which Fern was talking about a bit before, and that's combining the best of the data warehouse and the data lake. And while many others have now launched their own Lakehouse, Databricks still delivers the only unified Lakehouse. That means all data workloads are able to operate on the same data with the same security and governance policies. Functional silos are reduced, so collaboration is much easier and much more cost efficient. And as a result, customers are able to ship more data products, and they gain the ability to work in real time with low latency and support for all different types of data personas, whether they're focused on BI and data warehousing, data science and ML, data engineering, streaming. I'm just so proud of how we're delivering massive impact by removing the complexity in the tech data stack with this unified approach to data. Now, once you have a unified data platform, you have a great foundation for data sharing and collaboration. And data sharing and collaboration, it was once considered optional. Some companies were doing it, others weren't. But today, it's foundational. I'm sure you guys have heard tons of stats out there. Two of my favorite come from Gartner. The first is that only 15% of organizations that have started their data sharing programs are going to succeed. And guys, that's such a low number. I know we can do better. Gartner also found that the CDOs successfully executing data sharing are 2 times more effective at showing business value and getting a return on the investments from their strategy. There's a tremendous opportunity here, and Databricks is built to empower you to seize it. Data sharing and collaboration relates to many things, like I was talking about in the kickoff. It can be sharing within your 4 walls or breaking down silos of your org. It's collaborating with partners or suppliers or customers. It's streamlining how you exchange data back from your apps, your data as a service providers. Customers told us clearly that they needed a simple, open, and secure approach, something that would ensure privacy, trust, and security, while also ensuring efficiency and immediate accessibility. All these things kind of go at odds with each other, but Databricks was able to solve it by delivering Delta sharing. Delta sharing is the world's first open protocol for secure data sharing across data analytics and AI. It allows organizations to share data for any use case, any tool, any platform, any cloud. So you can share live data sets and dashboards or notebooks or AI models. You can share across platforms and clouds without any dependency on the data sharing service. It's a one share to anywhere. So the customers can be in another cloud. They can be using tools like Spark or Power BI or Pandas, and it's zero copy. Delta sharing has helped us to turn ETL from months into minutes, and consumers can now access data just as if it was another share versus FTP or walled gardens that make things quite a bit more restrictive. Today, more than 6,000 organizations are consuming data using Delta sharing. And we recently have announced partnerships with Salesforce and Cloudflare, Dell, Oracle, Twilio, and more to seamlessly share data across their platforms and any systems that are supporting this open protocol. And it's core to over 80 of our marketplace providers, from ZoomInfo, IQVIA, LSEG Refinitiv, AccuWeather, S&P. Databricks is committed to bringing the next generation of data collaboration experience that's secure and doesn't require data movement or vendor lock-in. We're trying to crack how to make discovery and access to data products simple and doing it in a way that's privacy first. Delta sharing is the cornerstone of this, and then we expand capabilities through things like marketplace and clean rooms. Touching first on clean rooms, the demand for external data to make these data-driven innovations, it's greater than ever before. But there is a growing concern among organizations around data privacy. So the need for an organization to share data and collaborate with partners and customers in a secure, governed, and privacy-centric way is driving this concept of a clean room. Clean rooms allow businesses to easily collaborate in a secure environment in any cloud in a privacy-safe way. So participants of Databricks' clean room, they can bring in their sensitive data, and that might include PII. They can perform joint analysis on that private data that they otherwise wouldn't share. And participants have full control of the data and can decide which participants can perform what analysis without exposing any sensitive data. And then they have the flexibility to use the platform of their choice, scale to collaborate with multiple different participants, and it's interoperable across clouds and regions without moving data. Next, Marketplace. That's our discovery platform for all data and AI assets. And that's especially relevant to today's conversation. Talking for a few minutes on this, it's open to both Databricks and non-Databricks customers. And it's not limited to just data sets. It's for discovery of all types of data assets. That's ML models, applications, dashboards, notebooks. Pre-built notebooks, for example, help consumers to evaluate data faster, which drives more value for everyone. It might have code or sample outputs that you'll get. And it's like a plug and play way to show consumers where to begin. Or AI model sharing. Every organization wants to be an AI organization, but most are still new to AI. Customers want out-of-the-box AI models to kickstart their AI journey. So soon we're going to have AI model sharing on the marketplace. Our marketplace just GA'd a couple months ago, and we've seen incredible results thanks to our ecosystem. We have over 600 listings and about 80 providers. We have had over 45,000 unique consumers who are calling Databricks Marketplace their core place for discovering all their different types of data assets. And for those who don't want to publish or consume from an open marketplace, we have private exchanges that drive that same open, secure experience. So hopefully this gives you guys a glimpse into what Databricks is doing to make our customers succeed. We want to make sure that our customers are the ones with the data sharing programs that are the most effective at showing business value and getting returns back on their investments, going back to the Gartner stats from before. This is all very relevant to go-to-market use cases and how Databricks is powering go-to-market sales functions. And it's why we have such a close partnership with ZoomInfo. I'm really excited to hear next from Sneh to talk about what ZoomInfo is doing to power go-to-market. So Andrew, I'll hand it back over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was a great presentation. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Sneh Kakaleti with ZoomInfo. Sneh is the Vice President of Product Management, leading data and data applications at ZoomInfo. And over the past 7+ years, Sneh's focus has been establishing ZoomInfo as the industry-leading B2B intelligence platform. His expertise in facilitating enterprise go-to-market strategies with a data-centric approach. Welcome, Sneh, and with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. And thank you so much, Fern and Sarah. And I swear, every time I hear more about the Databricks ecosystem, it just gets me so excited and so happy that we're partners and that we're just starting this journey together to really bring go-to-market data to such a robust ecosystem and platform. So hello, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time today. My name is Sneh Kakaleti. I'm Vice President of Product Management here at ZoomInfo, and I lead our data team and our data applications team. Here at my time at ZoomInfo, I have spoken to many, many different customers and really focused on the revenue side of the business and talking to them about how they go to market. One thing that stands out, no matter how different the customers are, really at the heart of every go-to-market is the customer data. And no matter the size of the business, what product they sell, where they sell, who they sell to, there's really, really common issues that each customer faces as it pertains to customer data. I want to hit on those really quickly. First is data quality. It's the incomplete, inaccurate, and inconsistent data that many go-to-market teams suffer from. On average, 40% of B2B leads contain data that's invalid, it's incomplete or duplicated. The lack of strong, clean data leads to inefficient go-to-market motions. The second is the data silo problem. It's the unification of data. That's abundantly true in the sales and martech stack. As we all know, sales and marketers have a ton of tools, and all the tools they use are all very, very valuable, but they all become their own source of truth and really contextual data in that. And so the inability for a go-to-market team to actually stitch together those different assets to really build a comprehensive view of their customers and inform them on the data-driven decisions they need to effectively go to market is one of the most common problems that we see. And the last is just insufficient total addressable market data. The inability to understand who is in the market for their business, and when are they looking to buy their particular products and services. And so these are the three most common problems that we hear from go-to-market teams around the world, and that's the exact impetus that drove ZoomInfo to build its solution. And with our solution, our database is the underlying foundation of that solution. So I wanted to take a moment here and quickly talk through ZoomInfo's data. And so as we solve problems for B2B go-to-market, company data, and as Fern perfectly described, firmographics, is really the backbone of any business-to-business sales motion, go-to-market motion. And so company profiles, like Fern said, it's annual revenues, it's locations, the shape and size of the company, where are they located, how many employees do they have, how much they make in revenue, what industry are they in. ZoomInfo actually goes even deeper than that. We actually layer in technographics. We understand what tech stack a particular company is using, what their corporate hierarchy looks like, who's the ultimate parent, and where are the subsidiaries within, where are those locations located. And so we give go-to-market teams a deeper view into the businesses that operate globally. Secondly, and you can argue even more important, is the professional profiles, those contact businesses. Especially in a B2B motion, yes, you're selling to businesses, but businesses don't buy, people buy. And so it's very important for any go-to-market motion to have a B2B go-to-market motion to have an understanding of who those buyer personas are. Who is your ideal customer profile? And so ZoomInfo profiles over 300 million business professionals and has them linked to those specific companies. And those business professionals, we have the name, the email, their how we can contact them, their phone numbers and emails, and of course their job titles and seniority. Where do they sit within the organization? How long have they been with the organization? Where do they work previously? It's all of that context that helps sales and marketers better understand and better target their ideal customer profile. And so both of those data sets, the companies and the people, really are foundational. They help us understand, they help businesses understand the who they should market to, which businesses and which people within those businesses. But the really important question to answer is the when. When are businesses really in market for particular products and services? And so that's why ZoomInfo has invested heavily in our differentiated signal data. These are your hyperdynamic, time series bound data sets, things like when new hires are made within an organization. Is a company growing or shrinking? Do they just announce layoffs? What are the particular buying patterns that they have? Are they opening new offices, or are they closing new offices? Or are they closing offices? Are they visiting your websites? Did they raise a round of funding? Do they just add a new competitive technology, or maybe an integrated complementary technology? These are all signals that ZoomInfo, and this is just a few of them, these are all the signals and the types of signals that ZoomInfo is able to aggregate and serve up to that sales and marketing team. And so we've taken all of these insights, we've compiled them together and built out the ZoomInfo platform. And so with that, our platform is a set of web applications that our customers can access this data. We've built it around this revenue operating system model. And so we've got solutions, and if you're familiar with ZoomInfo, you're most likely familiar with these tools. Our sales OS, hundreds of thousands of users, sales users ranging from SDRs all the way to AEs and account managers are logging into Sales OS, ZoomInfo Sales OS, to find the right prospects, search for the ideal buyers within their accounts, and build out their pipeline and build out their book of business. On the marketing side, we also help demand generation specialists build and execute campaigns, whether that's through our own advertising DSP that we enable, or through the very many integrations that we support. And then lastly, on the revenue side is our operations suite. And that's a set of tools that we serve for our customers, out-of-box tools that allow them to integrate our data directly into CRM systems to enrich and maintain the data hygiene within those source systems. And so again, this is traditionally how the market understands ZoomInfo. But something that's changed tremendously in the last few years is that gone are the days where go-to-market teams were just working in these sales and martech stacks. They're not just working in CRM and marketing automation tools anymore. This data is being centralized, and the go-to-market teams have their own need to make data-driven decisions in tools just like Databricks. And so that was the exact impetus that drove ZoomInfo to build our data as a service product line. And so our data as a service product line is comprised of APIs and data cubes, which are data sets that we sell. They're prepackaged or custom data sets that we're able to serve. And so for many years, for the last few years, we've been able to take this these capabilities are APIs and are sort of traditional data file sharing capabilities to market. They're serving enterprise-like use cases where analytic teams that typically sit within the go-to-market organizations are trying to analyze who their customers are, who their total addressable market is. They're trying to build propensity to buy models and understand how they can be more efficient about their go-to-market. Well, this evolution is just getting started, and we are very excited about the capabilities that we're able to unlock and help our customers get to market quicker and faster with those use cases with our partnership with Databricks. And so I'm very happy to spend the time today with Sarah and Fern and discuss how we are jointly going to market with the solution together. So Andrew, back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sneh. That was a great presentation there. Now it's time for our panel discussion. So I'll ask that both Fern and Sarah rejoin us. And Fern, with that, I'll hand it back over to you for the discussion.
Great. So welcome to the panel discussion, Sarah and Sneh. So the first question is, let's drill just a little bit deeper into data as a service. And then people, I saw that they were asking about, the types of data, which Sneh, you did a good job talking about, what's there, but, in terms of what are some of the use cases. So how is data as a service driving GTM? And then what are some of the use cases? Sneh, let's start with you, from the ZoomInfo perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Fern, you hit on it quite a bit. Sarah did as well, and so did I. And so, really, when we think about how data as a service is driving go-to-market, first and foremost, it begins with the fact that let's all appreciate the fact that go-to-market relies heavily on data. And so really to build those effective go-to-market motions from sales and marketing, we really, really do rely heavily on that customer data. But this is more than just transacting a lead generation campaign. This is more than just, I got to go buy this list and let me just go run some motion into digital ad displays. There is an entire sales and marketing alignment and an analytical side of how go-to-market teams need to better understand their customers. And so one of the really, common use cases that we've come across is customers that are, one, trying to align sales and marketing. Like I said, those are two different data sets, bringing those together so they can better understand them. And then two, being able to run analytical payloads on those. So really common is propensity to buy modeling. They want to understand when customers, who are the best fit customers, who they should actually build some type of a quantifiable score for prioritizing accounts, and then serving that down to their marketers from a campaign perspective, and all the way down to sellers in their actual sales transactions. So, data lakes like Lakehouses are a big piece of this. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That was just interesting. You were talking about, propensity to buy and building a score. And so they're using, say, the data from ZoomInfo, including the signal data that you were talking about before, to build those propensity to buy scores?
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is actually a really great use case, and I'm really glad that Sarah's on the call here too, because actually Databricks is a customer of ZoomInfo's, and they're doing exactly this. So Sarah, I actually think it'd be great to hear from you.
100%. Yeah, I mean, when Databricks and ZoomInfo publicly promote our solutions together and how it's driving go-to-market, it's a drink your own champagne story. And I think those are always some of the strongest stories. So like Sneh said, we do use ZoomInfo internally, and it is, I think, the most requested piece of technology across everything from our sales team. We use ZoomInfo's Sales OS tools to provide our sales teams direct access to the platform for account prospecting and for contact data enrichment. We're also investing in bulk data services, and we're going to be using Delta sharing to feed contact records, intent signals, account technographic insights, all the things that Fern and Sneh were just talking about into our Lakehouse. We're buying, intent data, and that's going to be used to develop automated triggers for our account teams to receive notifications of when to action on different companies within their territory. That technographic data we're using that for two different reasons. One, building on a data map, which that's like also known as account intelligence. And that's going to give account teams a picture of the full tech landscape of a company, which is particularly critical for us because you can draw different comparisons, contrast. You can see what's competitive, what's complementary to help us target our approach. And it's going to be used by sales ops to develop segmentation strategy through having a more complete picture of the TAM across all segments. Many solutions are quite good at the enterprise, but there's often a gap in startups or non-American based companies or commercial. And that's where ZoomInfo has really strong data and it's filling things in. So there's a close to home use case, and many of our customers are doing the same things. So pretty exciting. And then just quickly touching, I think Fern, you did a great job of it at the beginning, but data services itself driving go-to-market. I have a pretty unpopular opinion, but it's true in my opinion, that data, it's really just a means to an end. So the whole thing with maximizing the value of your data, it's really about how can you quickly get the right insights to fuel your business. So when you have it as a service, when you have the whole data as a service from ZoomInfo and the easy delivery methods of it, you don't have to spend all this extra time curating the data. It's structured, it's linked, it's all ready to use. So I just wanted to hit on that too, because I think it's a critical piece. Just the data isn't enough. Having it as a data as a service from leading companies like ZoomInfo who care about the delivery and the consumption of it is critical.
Yeah, those are some awesome, great use cases. Sorry, Sneh, were you going to say something else?
No, I was just going to plus one to that. That's great. And actually, I've had the the pleasure of working with Sarah's the RevOps team on the Databricks side, as we've sort of been working closely to help some of this come to fruition and come to light. And one thing that stuck out to me that was really awesome is and kind of dovetailing with your point, Fern, about the signal data, is Sarah hit on the intent data. So ZoomInfo has buying intent. So we aggregate signals about companies when they're consuming online topic. They're doing research about particular topics. Those are great buying events. And so if I'm researching about data management or data warehouse infrastructure, it's a good signal for the Databricks team to go after. But what was really awesome is that, yes, it's great for propensity to buy and analytical use cases, but with Databricks tooling, they're actually building dashboards that sales reps are interacting with. It's such an awesome experience for an account manager to actually have the list of his or her named accounts with this propensity score that the revenue ops and the analytics team has sort of built in there and prioritized those accounts. And then they sort of click to expand and they view that full profile. And let me just say, that's running on a blend of first-party data coming from CRM, coming from I believe it was training and usage data from Databricks as well. Married that up with ZoomInfo's sort of third-party referential data and those signals to bring that holistic view together for those go-to-market teams, which I thought was just an awesome way to bring analytics all the way down to the end users.
Yeah, interesting.
If I can just add something to that, because I love, Sneh, where you're going with it. Databricks definitely incorporates it with all types of other data, and that's something that we're seeing so common with our joint customers. And I think it's really important to think about the full picture of what are the different types of data that you can collectively get the insights from. So we see a lot of combining maybe the ZoomInfo data with Salesforce, which is another partner, Twilio, or other CDPs, as mentioned before, or think about applications like Outreach or Marketo. So there are all these different solutions that an organization uses that have critical data that when you couple that with the powerful insights that ZoomInfo is driving from all their different data sets, and it's powerful what you can do from a go-to-market perspective, making sure you're driving a productive sales force and the revenues that the company expects.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm a big proponent of bringing lots of different data sources together, for better analysis. So here's the question, Sarah. You were talking about that you're taking the data in from ZoomInfo in your business, in your use cases. How do you get the data from the data as a service provider into the Lakehouse? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And this goes back to Delta sharing and, and why we created it. and also why when we created the Delta sharing project, it's all open source. Everything open is core to our DNA, and we really do want to help the world to solve the toughest data challenges. So with Delta sharing, it's reducing the friction of getting data. It's allowing providers to securely share the data assets, putting the access controls in place that are needed. The data with Delta sharing, it just appears as another table in the Lakehouse. So you don't have to copy the data. You don't have to pick it up from an FTP side. It reduces the steps required to start taking action on your data. So how do you get the data from the provider to the Lakehouse and prevent those? You use Delta sharing. It's the open, secure way that's purpose-built for exactly this.
Yeah, I love that, Sarah. And oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to try to prompt you, because you leading product for ZoomInfo, there are a lot of problems that you yourself have dealt with. And and while I'm definitely biased towards Delta sharing being the best, you didn't have to be, and you chose to be. So why don't you tell us?
Right. Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say. And so, from the product management angle, look, we've been trying to take this data as a service business to market for some time. And so, your traditional large-scale data consumption is hitting on all the problems that you just perfectly described that I, as the publisher, were facing for so long. But really, I'm going to put it into the perspective of the customers. What it really led to is just a time to value problem. It's an onboarding issue. It's how do I, as a customer, get started with this data quick and easy? Because remember, we're selling our data to business teams, and then there's practitioners that have to go make this thing come to life. And so the capabilities that we're really unlocking with Databricks and with Delta sharing are taking ZoomInfo's data and bringing it right. It's farm to table. It's going straight from ZoomInfo straight into the customer's hands where they're actually working, and it's getting them started that much quicker. And I think we're going to hit on this in a little bit, but just that notion of what our data products actually look like now is actually evolving there in of itself.
Yeah, you teed that up well. How, Sneh, I'll let you take this one.
Perfect.
How does
I forgot that this was the next question, but perfect. Look, when we think about ZoomInfo's data asset, and as we take products to market, traditionally we've thought about our product being literally rows and columns. It's a file that we're going and selling, and the value that comes out of it, and then we're going and unlocking. We're going and positioning that to our clients. But the most common question that we get to our customers as soon as we close a deal, it's okay, now what? How do I get started? How do I make this thing do the value that we were sort of promised? And then that's when there's the whole customer experience, and it's the post-sale management with the client. But what I love, and it's so unique with the Delta sharing ecosystem, is that this isn't just a transfer of columns, tables and data sets to our customers. It's actually an entire packaged up product in of itself. And so our customers, and you can see this right now, you can hop onto the Databricks marketplace and you can see ZoomInfo's listing. We actually have sample data sets ready to go with notebooks and queries and even models that help our customers at least get a sense of the art of the possible. They get started with tools that they can use directly within the Databricks ecosystem. And it's just an awesome way to evolutionize how we think about, or evolve how we think about data as a service, data products.
So what type of, when I think data product, I think, derived assets from data, packaged in a certain way. That's, I think, what you're saying too. What's the most popular type of data product that you're seeing your clients use, or some examples of data products?
Yeah. Well, so I actually think the use cases that Sarah hit on earlier are a perfect example, right? And so when we think about how our customers are trying to blend that first and third party data together, I think enrichment's a really common one. And so the ability for our customers to say, hey, I've got a list of customers right now, but I really don't trust the firmographic data that I have on them. And so enrichment to fuel any type of modeling or analytical use case after is really a very common one. And then those can get really, really sophisticated. Sarah's team and the Databricks group are really pushing the envelope on how sophisticated some of those use cases can get. And like I said, I think the fact that we can actually build dashboards that aren't just a BI or an analyst sitting and viewing this, but it's actually going down to the consumers themselves, is really kind of on the other end of that spectrum.
Sarah, what are you seeing with your product, with your clients in terms of data products and using data as a service and the Lakehouse?
Yep, very much what you and Sneh have talked about, but I'll put it into, we'll call it two categories. One is the notion that a data product is a complete solution. So Databricks is starting to launch solution accelerators that show use cases that might give examples of multiple different types of data partners combining their data to solve real world problems. It's all about making it easier for the customers to get started. So, we talked about the intent to buy information. So if a customer has thousands of accounts showing up at an event, how do they know which accounts are most important to follow up on? You could have ZoomInfo's intent to buy, layer that with customer signals like support calls or surges in usage, put in some of the data I was talking about before, like Outreach or Marketo or Salesforce, combine all that stuff. So how can Databricks and ZoomInfo and other partners create a solution that kind of says, here you go, customer, if this is what you're trying to do, here's a path to do it. And then the second piece that we're seeing, a lot, it again combines the data assets, but this time thinking about data assets more broadly than the data sets themselves. So Sneh hit on it, but ML models, notebooks, AI models, all of these things that can be productized with Databricks and that can be easily discovered by the consumers, just to make it much easier for the consumers to find what they're looking for and to get the insights from it really quickly. ZoomInfo, for example, they've built great notebooks and notebooks that we've touched on a couple times, but it's a way to do data storytelling. Fern, in the beginning, you talked about how not many data sets are free out there that have the firmographic data, and that's true. So do you really want to go and hope that the data set you're buying is right or go through a whole evaluation period? How can we help together the customers to get a glimpse of what it is? So that helps with enhanced documentation. It reduces friction to get up and going. It accelerates the usage. It helps the integration and the implementation on the consumer side. And that's just on, on the notebooks, but you can imagine how the AI models can help with that and all other things. So seeing the data product as broader than just the data set, but the complete picture that helps to get the insights. Because again, data is a means to an end. So how do we help customers get where they're going as quickly as possible to differentiate their business?
Yeah, I like the way that you described that, and I agree. About it's more than just enriching. The things that are possible with providing data products. And it's interesting that it looks like people are actually looking at machine learning models and notebooks and getting them off the marketplace. That's good to know. I want to leave time for audience Q&A because there are a number of questions coming in. So let's talk about, we'll conclude talking about best practices for utilizing third-party data. If you give me like your top one or two key best practices. Sarah, I'll start with you on this.
So my best practices keep it really simple. From one perspective, it's making sure that the data is going to be ready to use and you have a performant place for it to be delivered and then potentially merged with other data sets and assets. So if we talked about the unified approach that Databricks offers through the Lakehouse, making sure all personas are going to have access to it in real time, low latency. I hear a lot about eliminating data duplication and not having stale data. You talked about that too, especially with firmographic data. The customers that we're all selling to, they change all the time. So how do we make sure everyone has the right things? That's an important best practice for any company who's trying to make business decisions off the data. And then it's making sure that requirements are really clear based on who it is that you're collaborating with, the platforms that either of you are on, what can and can't be shared, and making a plan to effectively exchange the data or discover the data or collaborate on the data. For example, if you need to securely share your customer data with a partner, and allow each other to perform in-depth analysis or identify where there's a shared audience segment without giving direct access to either of your individual customer information, that might mean that a clean room is going to be suitable for you. But a clean room isn't always suitable. You've got to really understand the requirements. Or if you know some of the key data sets that you need, but you want to be able to find others that can complement it, or data assets to make it easier to use, then maybe a data marketplace is best. So it kind of starts with basics. Understand your requirements, understand who you're exchanging data with, and then go from there to find the right solution.
Yeah, Sarah, you hit all of them. That's really well said. I wanted to throw one more in there that I think dovetails with your point about requirements, but there's an element of data democratization that's very important as well too. As these data sets come together, what you're also doing is actually bringing teams together as well too. And so a really important element of a successful deployment of just using a lakehouse, regardless of just firmographic data, is as your sales and marketing teams are bringing their data sets together. Well, guess what? Finance is relying on that data set just as much. And so just being able to democratize that data and give you the right governance to the different teams that need it and providing that source of truth in that way, it's just overall company success on utilizing a lakehouse and really blending those data sets together.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, especially in terms of the governance, we always see that as a top priority with organizations. So, hey, thank you both very much. We're getting audience questions, so I'm going to turn it back over to Andrew to do the audience Q&A. So, Andrew, over to you.
Terrific. Yeah, thank you all. That was a great discussion there. We do have some audience questions, so we'll start with the first one for Sarah. Of course, Sneh or Fern, if you have anything to add, please do so. But Sarah, can Delta Share enable organizations to share data from marketplaces and from their own platforms in their clean rooms with their partners?
So that's a pretty loaded question. We need to dissect it quite a bit. Delta sharing is what powers our clean room solution, and so that's what's making it so that it's no copy, really easy to get that data that has to stay private into an environment that both sides can run their queries on. So that's the one piece on the clean room. Sharing from the marketplace, any marketplace could use Delta sharing. And so if that's where the question's going, then yes, Delta sharing is a complete open protocol. It doesn't matter if it's being shared from Databricks to another cloud platform, or if you're on a AWS or GCP or Azure and you're sharing it with a separate cloud, even if you're on the same platform. So if that's where it's going, then the answer is yes. Now, if you're on a marketplace that doesn't support the open format, then they wouldn't have Delta sharing. So then the answer would be no. If you want to follow up, whoever asked that, with a bit more clarification, I'd be happy to answer it exactly for what you're looking for.
One other angle that I can just say from being a publisher on this and working directly with customers is there is also the bidirectional aspect of it. So data clean rooms is an awesome middle ground for when we're doing data enrichment, but oftentimes our customers are actually sharing data sets with us that they're looking for us to append and enrich or analyze ourselves, and we work consultatively in that approach. And so what's awesome about the Delta sharing ecosystem is that the data is never actually leaving their four walls, and so to speak. So the data is securely handled within Databricks, and it's we call it data sharing, and it makes sense why we do, but in a lot of ways, it's just granting ZoomInfo or the publisher, or vice versa, access to that particular data set. And so there is that angle as well too.
Yeah, I really love how you said that. I sometimes have to go caveman style because I'm just a salesperson. I'm not an engineer. So in caveman style, I think about Delta sharing kind of like Google Apps. If I'm going to share a doc with Sneh, he doesn't have to pull that down, make a copy, hope it stays up to date, make sure that the format of it is all correct. I can just send him the link to my Google Doc. He can see it. He can see all the changes to it. Where we're kept up to it. Really easy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
That's great. And I don't think that's fantastic. A caveman analogy at all, Sarah.
Thanks. The flattery goes far.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question here. Sneh, this will be for you. What are your thoughts on how data as a service and data sharing benefit, what are your thoughts on how data as a service and data sharing benefit generative AI initiatives?
There it is. We didn't talk about Gen AI enough in this call. I think that was we had to hit that once. Look, I think generative AI and just AI and data analytics as a whole really rely very much on the quality of that data set. I know I've been hammering that point, but it really is very true. And companies are we're seeing this left and right. We're using AI in our products to build better products for our customers, but we understand the value of our data as it pertains to helping our customers generally with their AI projects. And so when I think about data sharing and ZoomInfo's data as a service product line, and coupled with data sharing and how that's going to actually improve our customers' overall AI, whether it's generative or kind of your traditional use cases, it really comes down to one, having the right data quality so that you're relying on the right foundation to make the right answers. Your data science is only as good as the data quality that you have. And then the other side of it is, again, it's really making sure that it's easy to do. Look, data science is not easy, and there's a lot of iterations that your teams are going to go through to get a successful end model, to drive the results that your business is looking for. And so the more we can do to get that time to value, get the teams in there jump started. Look, when we go and sell a 12-month contract, I hate it when we're at month 6 and the teams are still trying to figure out how we're getting data into the ecosystem that they should be working within. And so the more we can expedite those and front load those onboarding processes, get the data into the tools where the practitioners need to work, it's really going to just expedite the already booming industry. And so we're very excited about that. We see this as a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing on that, totally agreeing with everything Sneh is saying, and then thinking about what Gen AI and AI in general, what it's going to open up, how it's going to revolutionize this whole space. It's like a new frontier of data problems that can be solved. I think the future of data discovery is going to feel more like a chat GPT or a chat bot, using Gen AI and bots to streamline the discovery. Also today, most of the data that we're analyzing, it is textual, it is tabular, but there's lots of other types of data out there, audio, imagery, stuff like that. And Gen AI makes it, I think, much easier to be able to analyze what that data is and put it into all the different models. It expands the types of data that we can use and that companies are going to productize, and they're going to make all of us more productive. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to disrupt the whole world and help us discover and do more with our data.
That's great, Sarah.
And I'm glad that we brought up Gen AI. I don't know how we forgot about it through this whole thing. That's like the most topical thing of the world. Thanks for whoever asked that.
That was fantastic. Thank you both. Unfortunately, we have run out of time today. So please allow me to thank our speakers. We did hear from Fern Halper with TDWI, Sarah Branthman with Databricks, and Sneh Caccaletti with ZoomInfo. Would also like to thank our audience members that did ask questions. We'll make sure that the questions that were not answered get out to the speakers, and they might be able to respond later. Please allow me to thank our sponsors once again, Databricks and ZoomInfo, for sponsoring today's webinar. And we did record today's webinar, so we'll be emailing you a link to an archived version of the presentation, which you can feel free to share with colleagues. Finally, I'd like to remind you that TDWI offers a wealth of information, including the latest research, reports, and webinars about BI, data warehousing, and a host of related topics. So I encourage you to tap into that expertise at tdwi.org. And from all of us here, let me say thank you so much for attending. This does conclude today's event.